Hello there, everybody, and thanks for joining me today for this special live stream. I know I always say they're special, but this one is extra special because I'm going to show you how to do character design for Corel's Epic Character Contest, which is available now on Drawcrowd.com. This is sponsored by Corel and Clip Studio Paint, two very good pieces of digital art software. And basically, the gist of the contest is that you create an epic character, you submit it, and you have a chance of winning all kinds of different prizes. A Wacom Cintiq 13 HD is one of the prizes, a Nintendo Switch is one of the prizes, of course software is part of the prize package, and there's even a mentorship by a caricature design master. So if you want to read all the details, feel free to go to drawcrowd.com and check out the Epic Character Contest. You can check out all the details. I won't go into too much of that because I want to focus on creating a character, and I want your help creating that character. And what better way to get your help than to do it through Super Chat? So if you look in the description of this video, there's a whole list of how much you can Super Chat and how that contributes to the character. Because obviously if I said, hey everybody, send me all of your requests, what do you want the character to look like, etc., I'd probably get 100 different requests and I wouldn't be able to do them all. So basically what Super Chat's going to do is it's going to make sure that whatever you request for the drawing gets included in the drawing, and if there's any questions that I might miss, I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible, but if you want to make sure that your question gets read on the air and that I answer it and whatever, then Super Chat it, and it'll get pinned to the Super Chat. Alex is here, Park's here, Kesh is here, Nanoken's here. And of course, you can participate in the contest if you want to submit your own epic character for the Drawcrowd contest. Definitely go ahead and do that. That's, I'm going to show you how I'm going to design a character. I'm not necessarily going to submit it because I don't think that I'm capable of winning. There's probably a lot of good stuff on there already. I think it's at 170 entries, so that's a decent amount of competition, but it's not like there's 1,000 people or 10,000 people. I mean, you have a pretty good chance of winning if your character is epic enough. There's 20 days left for the contest, so that's not a whole lot of time, but, if you're used to working on a tight deadline, that's actually plenty of time. So I haven't really planned this out as far as what character I'm going to draw. Since I'm taking requests, I don't know. So you're going to see me do this character in a couple of hours, whereas you're going to have 20 days to do this. So my character, I'm going to make it as epic as possible in a couple hours, but we'll see. And no worries if you can't Super Chat. Feel free to just, request stuff, and if I can work it in, I'll work it in. Because I know not everybody has money and not everybody has access to a credit card and all that stuff. But I feel like Super Chat is a good way to at least make it so that I can filter out the people who really, really, really want to make a request from everybody else. Because again, like I said, if 100 people request something, which is probably what'll happen, I won't be able to get them all anyway, so. Plus, these Super Chats they give me incentive to do more live streaming, because, I kind of think about it, and it's like, how am I going to spend my time? I want to do live streams because, for one, they're fun, and for two, hopefully they're fun for you, and it's nice to be able to do stuff live, but from a business practical standpoint, I'm not really making any money off of it, per se. Whereas, if I make a video for YouTube or I work on a course or I do something like that, then I'm making money. So while I want to do live streams more often, and while it would be cool to do them like every week, let's say every Friday I'll do a live stream, I need to be able to figure out a way to monetize that. And so tying that into something that can be interactive and fun like this, I think is a good start for that. Mary McCarthy's here. What's up, Mary? Good to see you. Talking to Mary on Patreon about this course that I'm going to be putting out about texture, and I thought it would be a really easy, quick course, but then I started to write down bullet points of everything that I know about adding texture in paintings, and it ended up being a pretty long thing. I ended up with a lot of hours of footage, and it was a lot of cutting and editing. I won't go into detail about that now, but I was talking about how my neck was hurting, and Mary said I need a shot of Irish whiskey, I think. But it's only 9 a.m. here, so I don't think I'm going to be drinking any whiskey. I'm already kind of sloppy enough as it is in the live streams, anyways. So in the meantime, since there's no requests yet, and there may not be any super chats, and in that case, I'll don't worry, I'll move forward and I'll draw something. Enough looking at this page here. Let's look at Corel Painter. And what I have here is just a little sketch on a separate layer. This is just a humanoid character, and it's a place to start with. It's a pose. It doesn't have to be male. It doesn't have to be female. It doesn't have to be human. It could be humanoid, like a lizard person or a wolf person or something like that. So I feel like that's a good place to start, just so I have something to work with. But I'll go over the requests and what you can superchat. That sounds like Sean Connery saying something really dirty, but that was just me misspeaking. Super chat. You can super chat request. For $10, you can choose one color for the character. So I imagine there might be several people who want to pick a color. So, if somebody chooses red, somebody chooses pink, somebody chooses orange, that's going to be the color scheme for the character. For $20, you can choose one look, style, or property. So a look would be long hair, or a style would be wizard, or a property would be stone or something. Maybe they're made out of stone. $30, you can choose one object or accessory. So maybe they're holding a staff, or maybe they have nunchucks, or something like that. Doesn't have to be violent. Maybe they have a bouquet of flowers, or ice cream cone. $40, you choose one superpower. So everybody knows what a superpower is. We don't need to go into that. For $50, you can choose the name of my character. And if, let's say, in some crazy world, more than one person super chats $50, then I'll have to combine some names together. And in that same crazy world, if someone was so generous enough to super chat $100, then they can choose a major detail, or some of the major details like age and gender and what kind of creature it is, and the very big broad details. So hopefully that sounds fun. If not, and super chat's not going to happen, feel free to jump on over to that Drawcrowd page and check out the details for that. And you can draw along with me if you want, and take some of my tips and advice while I'm drawing and apply them to your own character. Because the point of this, I guess, is not necessarily for me to make money here, but it's to get some people to check out this really fun contest and win some prizes. Because that Cintiq 13 HD is a really awesome tablet with a screen, just a smaller version of what I use here at home. It's always nice to get some nice Corel Painter software and some of the other software they're offering. And then the Nintendo Switch. I'm a bit older than probably some of you. I'm in my mid-30s now. So to me, the Nintendo was the original Nintendo, and that was really awesome. And you probably would play that now and think it's pretty rudimentary. But I haven't really played much as far as Nintendo beyond the GameCube, and I barely even played GameCube just to check it out. So to me, like, Super Nintendo is about where it ends for my interest in Nintendo. But the Nintendo Switch does look cool from what I can see, so it'd be cool to win that. And what's more awesome than winning stuff because you submitted art? I know I'm talking a lot here, and I will eventually start drawing, don't worry. But I want to ramble on and tell you some stories that I have related to winning things based on my art. There was a radio contest here, and the radio DJ wanted people to submit animations done in Flash, and this is a while ago. This is before I even had a drawing tablet, in my early 20s, so a decade or so ago. And so I thought, like, I was already kind of making little cartoons in Flash, and I'd already been doing that. And I thought, how many people are actually going to submit to this thing? Like, it's not, and the timeline was absurd too. It was probably like a month or something, or, maybe less than that for you to create it and submit it. And it's like, how many people who are listening to the radio can use Flash and make a cartoon? And out of those people, how many people can do it within that timeline? And how many people can make something that's even funny? And I thought it'd probably be like 10 people, probably not very many. And I think it ended up being probably somewhere between 5 and 10. And I was one of those people. But basically I just submitted a little cartoon based on that DJ, and it was something kind of funny. I wish I still had it. I think it's something that I lost, and they don't have it backed up anywhere as far as I know. I searched online for it, but submitted it, and they only had, you know, a certain amount of prizes. And so basically by default, since I submitted my animation, didn't necessarily have to be the best one, I ended up winning a MacBook laptop. And this was a while ago, so it was probably only like, I think it was one of the first ones that had the Intel Pentium processors, and it was a dual core probably. So that was pretty cool. And then I've won a few other contests here and there with my work, so it's definitely worth doing. You know, you might look at it and go, there's 170 people ahead of me already, and you might look at the entries and go, wow, these people are all better than me. But everyone who's submitted something probably has that attitude, and even the people who you look up to probably still look at other people's work and go, you know, I wish I could be that good, or that person's gonna win, or, you know, everybody doubts themselves to some degree, no matter how confident they come off. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I look at stuff all the time and I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that. But I also know from experience, there's no point in trying to compare yourself to people, because you're your own unique weasel, as Pauly Shore would say. And there's billions of people on this planet. There's always going to be a large number of people who are going to be able to appreciate your work if you put it out there. And you don't have to be the best, because there's enough to go around for everybody. You know, there's no lack of people who are interested in art and supporting artists. Mary with the $5. Thank you, Mary. Much appreciated. Mary, feel free to make a request if you like. The minimum was 10, but if you have a question you'd like to ask, I'm always happy to answer your question or tell you a story. It's all for you, Mary. Let's check out the comments here too. I feel like I'm kind of neglecting those. So just to read some people's suggestions, just so we can see what's going on here. Love Goddess would like to see a female warrior angel. That's a pretty cool idea. Kesh says it would be cool to do red bubbles around the character. Alex wants to know, is the contest only for digital art? Yes, you have to use Corel Painter, and I believe you get bonus points, I believe, if you use both Corel Painter and Clip Studio Paint. And you can of course download trials for these too. You don't have to own the software. You can just download the trial and use the trial for 30 days. I'm not sure what the trial term is for Clip Studio Paint, but I'm pretty sure it's 30 days. And so you have to use at least one, if not both, for your artwork. And there's lots of other rules. I'm not going to go into the rules because I don't know all of the exact details for this. You'll definitely want to check those out on the website. Parco says, Aaron, you motivated me. Thank you. I'll try it. Excellent. Then my work here is done. Yeah, I'm glad it's getting you psyched up to draw some characters, and I will do some drawing here in just a minute. Varden's gonna watch this later because I got some chores to do. Thanks for pointing that out, Varden, because this will be recorded, or it is being recorded right now, and it will be available later if you can't watch the whole thing or if you missed part of it. So I'll catch you later, Varden. Mary McCarthy wants to hear a story. Let's see, what kind of story? I was just telling a story the other day. Okay, cool story. I really like animals and history and science and things like that, and you probably know that from a lot of my live streams. I'll tell this story and then I'll start drawing. I was watching a show last night about human evolution and you know, people originated from Africa and then migrated and how they might have traveled and done things along the way. And I'm into stuff like that, and they were digging around for bones and things, and I was kind of thinking about how it would be fun to go out and do that. You know, I guess I really wouldn't want to have to, like, you know, scrub little pieces of dirt with a toothbrush all day. But just to go out and hunt for fossils or something would be fun. And then I was thinking, like, have I ever really just found fossils somewhere? And this place I lived before I was 20, so I was probably like 17 or 18. It was a historical neighborhood, and I lived in this back house, kind of behind the main house. And there was this path that went from the main house to the back house it just cut through a yard, which was just grass, and I ended up mowing the yard a bunch of times too, and I'd always notice in the middle of this path there was this little stump thing, kind of like a tree root, you know, they'll come up out of the ground and go back down. And there was no tree there, and there was no tree stump, and it was just kind of a weird place for a tree to be. And the curiosity in me was like, I'm going to dig it up. And so I just kind of started digging, and what it ended up being, I'll have to draw it here on the screen. It ended up being these things that looked kind of like this. And I believe there were some that were like actually whole. And what they were ammonite fossils. And ammonites were kind of squidish animals that had a shell very similar to a nautilus. So like a big spiral shell. But they were big. I mean, these things were pretty good sized things. They could have been concrete replicas. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were fossils because, for one, they had little bits of shell embedded in them, like little seashells. And then there were little pockets that had like little minerally crystal stuff inside of it, like little holes and little caves. So I'm pretty sure that they were fossils. Why they were there, who knows? Like maybe somebody had a garden at some point and just like set them up in rows along this path, and then it kind of got covered up with dirt. Making sure you can see what I'm drawing. Sometimes I'll start talking and then it's just been my head really big on the screen for the whole time. You can see what I'm drawing here. Maybe the dirt covered it up over time, and then that little hump was sticking up, and then I came along and was like, what is this? And I had toted them around with me, but the problem is I'd moved so many times. Imagine carrying a giant big like stone thing around with you. I had probably about 3 total. 2 I think were pretty good sized whole ones, and 1 was just kind of like a piece of one. And I think I ended up leaving 1 when I moved again. Who knows what happened to that other one? And then one of the most recent times that I moved, I just ended up leaving it kind of in the garden at the house that I was at. And I think those people who I lived with also moved, so maybe it's still there. Maybe I can go back and get it, but there's still that one little piece. But that's my story about fossils. So Morgan Blood says your hair, or Alex says hair on point. Is that my hair is on point? Morgan says your tutorials are amazing. Thank you, Morgan. Nanocan says my life is a mess. I draw 16 hours in a day. That's good if you're drawing all day. It's the best way to get better. I Love Goddess says, I love your honesty, especially what you just said. Everyone is their own you, referring to when I was talking about being your own unique weasel. Alex wants to see a peacock king. Randy Curtis is here. Hello, Randy. Good to see you. Zainab says, best digital channel advice. Thank you, Zainab. Anita's here. Good to see you, Anita. Love Goddess sounds like an awesome find, referring to the fossils. So yeah, that's my story. Okay, so I'm going to do some drawing here and flesh this out. I think since Mary's the closest to super chatting a request for the character, Mary, feel free to just throw out something here so that I can get started. We need something kind of broad, such as a gender or like a particular creature, like a lizard person or something. Then I'll go ahead and get started. If anybody else wants to super chat in, that's at the bottom of your little chat window there. There's a little $sign thing, and depending on how much you super chat, you can request a detail for my character. So in the description of the video, you can actually see that list. But we'll see what Mary has to say here, and I'll go ahead and get started. Otherwise, most of this live stream was just me talking about fossils. I wonder if they have such a thing. I mean, I'm sure someone will steal my idea now if it hasn't been done already, but like a fossil live stream, fossil hunt live stream, you know? Because you can live stream outside now on your phone if you wanted to. I don't know that in remote locations where there would be fossils that you'd have cell phone reception, so that's something to consider. But, you know, if there was a cell phone tower next to a place where you can dig up fossils, there you go. Dig up fossils in your live stream. Mary says Wolfman. All right, so I will get started with Wolfman. And if anybody else has any other requests that they'd like to super chat in, such as the color, the look or style, objects, accessories, superpowers, the name of the character, and other details, feel free to do so. So there's my sketch. I'm going to dim that sketch a bit. And I'm going to make the other layer on top of it sketch 2. And I think I'm just going to turn my sketch blue. That way I want it to be easier for you to see, but not so distracting for me. And I need to do another sketch over that so that I can flesh out the Wolfman details. So here's where we're at. Like, I don't want to make it look like the Wolfman, you know, whatever that is. Wolfman Jack.
I'll make it look like the Wolfman. How about that? Mary knows who the Wolfman is, but probably not a lot of you do, cats.
I could make it that Wolfman, but I think what I want to do is, since I'm going to submit this into a contest and I want this to be an original character, it's best that I don't use any trademarked or copyrighted property. So I'm not going to submit Spider-Man, you know, like I couldn't submit the Wolfman because that's a universal property. But I think what Mary was getting at is that it's a wolf type person, and so that's what I'll go with. So there's nothing wrong with submitting a half human, half wolf character. That's fine. You wouldn't want to submit like Mega Man or, you know, like a character like Mario or somebody who's like Mario Man, or don't combine any other pre-existing characters with your character. It needs to be unique. But there's lots of wolf-like characters out there. That's fine, but you need to find a way, and I'll show you as we're going along, find a way to make your character unique enough to where somebody looks at that and goes, okay, that's Aaron's wolf person versus someone else's. Clueless finally made it to one of these. Good to see you, Clueless. Randy's got a request for blue theme. So again, it's no harm in requesting, but the only ones that I'm going to add to this are going to be super chat requests. So, you know, be like Mary, even if you super chat $1 or $5, that's fine too. Let's see how to make this a wolf person. I'm trying to think of if I want to make it mostly wolf, like actually have a dog face. I'll just start with the details that I know that I want to add. So we'll give it wolf-like eyes. And kind of like a growling kind of expression. Try to keep my head on the screen here. I watched these later and I'm like, my head was completely off the screen for a lot of that time. And so at this point, this is just a doodle. Or not a doodle, it's just a sketch. So it's not going to be the final drawing. I'll go over that and clean it up a bit. This is just me trying to figure out how I want it to look. And the beauty of doing this digitally is I don't have to go, I don't have to use an eraser and start over and all that stuff. I can do this all in layers. Like right now, my sketch is separate from my other sketch. And that way I can, get rid of the other sketch later and continue adding sketches. Kluge says, make it pixel art but taken into the real world. That's a cool idea. That's kind of like Minecraft, it sounds like. Bibble Knicker says, you've been drawing digitally too long when you try to control Z your traditional art. I have to say, I've felt like doing that a few times, trying to undo in the real world. So, give this character some wolf-like ears. Still not entirely certain if it's going to be male or female. I mean, depends on what I do with the jawline and the anatomy. But I think Mary did say wolf man, so I guess it has to be a man. And I have my rough anatomy here for my little skeleton thing, and basically you could use like, I know my friend Lawrence Mann will probably laugh at me for this. You can use these crappy little mannequins, and he actually has a good video about some mannequins that are much better than this, that look more like people and are more posable. But you could start here, or you could of course use a photo as a reference or something. But if you wanted to make your own pose and you want to see how it would look, there you go. You pose your little doll and you have your pose. What I used for this is a program called Poser. And Poser basically has different 3D models and skeletons and things that you can pose in 3 dimensions. And that's just like having a model come to your house and stand there and pose for you, because it looks just like a person. And then you can see your pose and then use that as the framework to then build on top of it. So even though my skeleton is kind of just a basic human anatomy skeleton, I'm going to add musculature and different details on top of that. I'm not going to... It's a framework in a sense, and then you put stuff over it. And what you put over it doesn't necessarily always contour exactly to that surface. So like here on the neck, I'm making the neck thicker. I can make the shoulders thicker as well. And again, this doesn't need to be like, your character doesn't need to be like a violent character. Like, it doesn't need to have swords and knives. Like, you can make your character whatever you want. If you want your character to be a chef or something, like, make your character a chef. I don't think there's anything in the rules that says it has to be a specific way. I think if I had one critique about the contest, it's more about the promotional image that they're using up in the top right. I don't have a problem with that style of art. I just think that like big bouncy boobs are not something that's appropriate on a contest that is supposed to be for everybody. So they could have chosen a better piece of artwork there, I think. I'm not trying in any way to discourage anybody from drawing art that looks like that. I don't have a problem with that art. I just think that those two things probably shouldn't have been paired together in that way. That kind of was surprising for me to see. And feel free to submit some characters of women that don't have giant bouncing boobs, because not everybody has the same body type. So there you go. That's my 2 cents, my feminist rant for the day. Joy uses Poser all the time, and it's great. It is a really good program, and it's nice to have. It's better than like trying to pay somebody off the street to come and pose for you in your house. Wolf woman is okay, says Mary. I'll go with wolf man. I feel like the model anyways is kind of masculine. But I don't know, wolf woman would be cool. There aren't really a whole lot of wolf women, so you're right. Let's do it. That's actually a good detail there, because there are a lot of wolf men, so if you really want your character to stand out, make a wolf woman, since there aren't quite as many. So then in that case, women tend to have more rounded, pointy jaws. I mean, this is all, stereotype stuff, and I don't know that I really want to perpetuate that, and I'm going to try as best I can to clarify that not all women look a certain way, and not all men look a certain way, and not everybody identifies with the gender binary, so I understand that too. But I'm just giving some general drawing tips here. So some women, not all, have pointier chins compared to men, which some men, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger or me, have kind of squarish jaws. So some women are really big and ripped too, but I'm going to say in this case that my female wolf here is not going to be super ripped. Still powerful, still very capable as a wolf, just doesn't need to be like all bulked up. And I think people have asked me, like when I've drawn women or men in paintings, why, like, people have criticized me for making breasts too big, and it's not anything that I'm doing intentionally, because I'm obsessed with large breasts. It's when you draw and you make art, you tend to put emphasis on things, and you tend to overemphasize things to make it very clear that this is something. A caricature is a good exaggeration. If somebody has a big nose, like this guy here, you might draw his nose a bit bigger to make that stand out. And I think I have that habit too, where, I wanted to make kind of like a big beefy wolfman character, but there's no reason why masculinity has to be associated with being muscular. So anyways, here I am getting all talky again. Okay, so let's try to do some drawing here rather than talking. It's always the challenge. But you do have to say something, when you're doing these live streams. So, again, getting into anatomy, not all women are built the same, but in general, compared to men, from a purely gender standpoint, women have hips because they have, different anatomy in the pelvic region. So that would again be something that you would use to make it pretty clear that your character is female. But again, that's a slippery slope, because I think there's a lot of problem in society now where there's these things that you're supposed to do to make somebody look like a woman. And as artists, I think we're, especially as character artists, we're perpetuating that. So I encourage you to make your character not like how you see other people make their characters. Don't feel like if your character's female, she has to have big breasts and she has to be all curvy and she has to be skinny or whatever. Don't feel like if you're making your character male that he has to be holding a sword and he has to be all ripped and has to have his shirt torn or whatever. Don't do that. Just if you want your character to look like you, make it look like you. If you want your character to look like whatever, do that. So this is just more framework on top of the kind of framework that I've already established. So you can think of the blue lines as being the bones, and then what I'm doing on top of it is all the muscle and skin. And I know where to put this stuff because I've drawn a lot of people. I'm not going to say that I'm the absolute best figure drawer or the best character artist because I'm not. I don't really do character art. Like I create characters and I've done that, but it's not my job and I don't do it all the time. So forgive me if I put something a little out of place here. Don't draw on every single muscle. So again, like I said earlier, I'm not exactly following what I've done here in that original sketch. I'm just doing what feels right. And sometimes you got to see things. You know, I'll probably drop out the bones and I'll take a look at this and I'll see that there's a lot of stuff I want to change. So that's going to be the breast area, but again, I'm not going to make giant bouncing breasts on my character here. Now the hands could be like pretty cool claws or something. It's hard to make an original character. That's the thing. Like everything's been done, you know? And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why movies are such crap nowadays is because either they're remaking movies that people already like, which is sometimes good, but usually not, because then they have to change it so much that it's not like the original, and then they end up changing it too much, and then people like me don't like it. Or somebody comes up with an original idea, but it's very, very slightly like another pre-existing thing, and then so the people who own the pre-existing idea shut down the other person's project because it's, you know, too similar or something. And so it's hard for new stuff to come out. Let's give her like an undercut kind of haircut here. Okay, yep, we're still missing an arm. Do the rest of my claws here. And I think I'm going too skinny on the arms there. Again, those are the bones, so I have to try to remember that everybody needs a little muscle. And again, this is just going to be kind of a sketch that I'm going to eventually refine. Okay. So then now this is going to become the sketch. The more sketches you do like this, the more opportunity you have to refine your idea and to get it looking the way you want. And that's really the key. I think a lot of people go at it and they just try to draw things the first time and make it complete the first time. Like, the very first line you draw is going to be part of the final drawing. And in reality, that's not what most people do. Maybe there's people who are really, 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 really experienced and have drawn a lot that can do that. But people who are starting out, and even a lot of professionals, including myself, I like to sketch out stuff and take time to refine it and formulate it over time. Love Goddess says, how much do I have to super chat to have you draw my warrior angel female mid-sized boobs? um, well, in the description of the video, it'll give you more detail, but basically you can choose a color for 10, a look, style, or property for 20, an object or accessory for 30, superpower for 40, name of the character for 50, and major details like age, gender, creature, etc. for 100. We've already established that this is female, so that's good. So then your warrior angel would have to be a wolf warrior angel, since we're already doing the wolf thing. But I guess that would be a style, which would be for 20. But you know what? If you super chat in anything, that's always good, and I want to be drawing something here, so those are, let's just say those are suggested, and any super chat is going to get your request in over no super chat. And Ryan says, model from a skeleton, never drew that way before. You don't necessarily have to. It's just I wanted to have something ready, you know? Like at least have a pose, whatever will save me time, because I'm only going to take a certain amount of time with this. Like I'm going to finish it here, so I'm going to have to do less talking and more drawing because I'm almost an hour through. But essentially what you're doing when you're drawing characters is you're imagining the skeleton. If you're not imagining the skeleton, I don't really see how you can draw characters. You don't have to draw the skeleton. You have to know what the human skeleton looks like in a very, very fundamental sense. And you have to know what musculature and anatomy that people have to be able to draw people. Whether you know it consciously or subconsciously, you still know it. So maybe you're copying someone else's style and just doing what they do. I mean, in a sense, you've memorized that, and so you know some basics about human anatomy. But, you know, in its essence, people are just skeletons. And I'll do more of these too. Not necessarily for the character contest, but, you know, more opportunities to do interactive art. So looking at this now, I do see that my ear's not quite at the right angle. Like I said earlier, sometimes you gotta just look at it, see it, and then know that it's not correct and fix it. And so that's what this opportunity I'm taking here is for. I'm going to make the forearms kind of broader there. There's going to be some hair that hangs down. This is helping with that wolf effect. See how I'm just cleaning it up, making it look more the way I want it to. The skeleton's not showing me the musculature, and so, you know, I could of course use a model that had muscles and stuff, but I didn't know that it was going to be a humanoid character. You know, I mean, I guess it had to be humanoid because it has basic human anatomy, but I didn't know if it was going to be like a human or a wolf person or a lizard person or whatever, so I wanted to keep my options pretty open. I don't think I'll do claw toes. I thought about it for a minute there, but I don't think I'll do that. Okay, something like that. It's getting close to what I want. Love Goddess with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Love Goddess. So, feel free to just request something. If like I mentioned, I won't be able to do the whole thing that you requested, but I can add an element from that. Warrior Angel. So, I guess we can assume that it's a warrior. Do you want me to add wings to make it an angel? Or like warrior armor, or both? Wings are a little tricky because they take a long time to draw, but let's see what we can do there. Wings, okay. Wings it is. So I'm going to create a new layer, put those wings on a separate layer. This way, if I don't get them exactly the way I want them, I can always redo them. And this is kind of that point where you're using your imagination to figure out how you want to represent your image. I don't have the time to be able to you know, do a lot of different sketches. So, you know, I have to be kind of decisive. And sometimes that's, you know, whether you're doing it professionally or just for fun, sometimes you have to make sacrifices in your work in order to meet a deadline or to get something done on time. And so a lot of being an artist is about just making decisions like quickly, like instantly. Like you don't need to think back and forth about it a lot sometimes. I mean, that's appropriate at certain points in the artistic process, but you need to be able to execute things, and that takes, committing to things and just making a decision. So I will do my best here to make these wings as detailed as I can within the amount of time that I have to do it. But wings are one of those things take a long time to draw because there's a lot of different feathers. I suppose there's ways to do it, to simplify it. And I'm sure if you looked at, like, Archangel in Marvel Comics, he has to be drawn so many times. They probably have a quick and easy way of doing the wings in a lot of the scenes. Love Goddess says the wings are fine as a hint that they are there, not really too much detail. All right, that'll work. That will work. NanoCan is going to teach somebody for the first time, or teach art to somebody for the first time. Do we have any advice? For teaching somebody art, well, hopefully you know more than them, and as long as you know more than they do about art, then you can teach them something. I've taught people art for a number of years, of varying degrees. I guess it depends on their age. Don't assume that they know everything that you know, and so you have to explain everything in a way that they can understand it. So try to pick up on how they understand things and use whatever it takes. I mean, you're essentially doing what I'm doing here. You're trying to explain what you're doing while you're doing it and teach people something. And it's not an easy thing to do. I don't know that there's really like a formula you follow. You just, if you're good at being able to communicate what it is that you're doing and teach somebody, then you can do it. If not, then, well, you'll see. They won't have you come back and teach them again. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they have you help them as much as they need help. Don't make it too difficult, because if you make it too difficult, what's going to happen is most people starting out think they're going to take a lesson, like a lesson, and they're going to learn how to be an artist instantly. And what they're going to learn is they're going to need to take a lot of lessons, or they're going to need to spend a lot of time on their own learning and drawing. And it's not something that you can just become good at instantly, and they'll get discouraged and they may just give up on it. So you have to give them little bite-sized lessons and little pieces of information at a time. That way they can feel like they're absorbing some of it, and then have them show you, have them repeat it for you, and then they'll feel like they accomplished something. They can look and go, oh, I just did what you did. Awesome, I learned something. Now they might forget it over time, so you want to remind them to practice, but helping people get a little bit of success and see that they've earned something from their effort really helps to motivate them to continue along with it. That's good for you because you'll get more lessons with this person, but it's also good for them because they'll continue to do art. They won't be intimidated by it. But good luck with that. I think teaching people it's a fun thing, because you see people start out not being able to do something, and then all of a sudden, even though they might have thought they couldn't do it, now they can, and it's because you showed them in a way that they finally understood, and that's the challenge. I don't feel like I'm a good speaker at all. I watch my recordings and listen to my live streams, and I'll ramble off on different tangents and have completely disconnected statements and things like that. But somehow, I guess, I can communicate what I'm doing in a way that's understandable for people. And I've been able to improve that over time. And it's just one of those things where it is or it isn't. I wasn't necessarily ever trying to be an art teacher. I just I found that I know a lot about art, and I have a talent for teaching it to people, and so I've gone with that. So right now we'll have a female wolf angel character, and unless there's any other super chats, I will go with this and I'll start adding some detail because I'm only going to go for about 2 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. What's up, Lawrence? Good to see you, buddy. Feel free to super chat in that $100, Lawrence, and choose the major details like age, gender, creature, etc. Bibble Knicker says, listening now just makes me wish I had a teacher like you, someone willing to work with the student and actually teach rather than judge. Maybe things... I didn't get the last part of that, but yes, you judging people doesn't do you any good, because what kind of a teacher is gonna... Well, that's not true. I've experienced that too. It's less about the teacher and that's more about you. And I know that's not what you want to hear, and that's not what I wanted to hear at the time. But when a teacher is being hard on you, that's because you're coming in there acting like you're all cocky and really good at what you do. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just doing whatever it is that you do. But in my case, it was because I was like, oh, I'm an artist. Check this out. And in college, in commercial art, the teacher would take my stuff and look at it and go, that's not finished. Or you could have done that better. You didn't put enough detail in there, and just always took the wind out of my sails every single time, even though I walked in there thinking she's going to love this thing and think it's so awesome. She never liked anything. She was just always like, whatever. And that really ticked me off, and I kind of had a beef with her because of it. But then thinking about it later, like, I'm glad that she did that, and I'm glad that everyone's done that, because I've taken stuff into galleries and they've been like, nah, come back in a year. And people aren't necessarily doing that just to be rude. They're doing that because they see within you that you have the potential to improve just a bit more, or actually put in like as much effort as you're capable of. And they know that when you do that, then you can be cocky to some degree. But until that point, like, if you're just showing up with sloppy work, or work that's not finished, or you're not entirely absorbing what they taught you and applying it, then they should let you know that. But it's how you let them know it. And you have to be able to give constructive criticism without embarrassing a student or discouraging them. And that's a hard thing to do. I don't know if I have any advice for that. You have to try to explain in a nice way what they did and what they did wrong and how they can do it better. And if they understand how they can fix that and do it better, it's not such a problem. But if you just say, nah, it's not good enough, like, you could say, rather than my teacher saying it doesn't look finished, my teacher could say, hey, this looks really good, but I bet if you went in there on that stippling and you added like a few more dots here and kind of increased the tonality of that, and there was more light and dark, it would really pop out more, and then it would look really awesome. Like, it's about making something better, not about something not being good enough. So anyways, enough talking. I guess I'll just keep my sketches separate now. Wing sketch, body sketch, the original sketch I don't know that we need, but whatever, we'll keep them for now. Group all those layers into a sketch layer. Fingers crossed that my microphone doesn't go out like it's been doing in the live streams too. Lawrence says super chats are always good for real in-depth advice. Yes, indeed. And if you have a comment or a question that you want to get pinned to the chat to make sure that I see it, if you've somehow been asking a bunch of questions and I'm not seeing them, which can happen because the chat goes by really fast, feel free to super chat in your question. Even if it's like $1, it'll pin your question to the top of the chat, and that way I'll see it and I'll be able to answer that question or read that comment. Lawrence says galleries are biased against digital art as well. In the story that I'm referring to, this is before I even did digital art, and the reason why I got rejected from the galleries is because I'd taken like stuff that I drew on computer paper, that was unframed and unmatted, and I'd be like, hey, check out my work, and that was just me being lazy, and that was me thinking like, I can make art. I've gotten some praise for making art. I can do it, and having more confidence than not necessarily talent, but just care to like present my work in a professional way. I was just lazy and sloppy about it. And that's what they could see. And I'm sure they can still see that because that's just how I am. I don't care about, oh, I used this kind of mat and I printed on this high quality paper that's made out of rhinoceros skin, or whatever. Like I don't even care to do that. Like I'd rather somebody just look at my image, whether it's printed on cardboard or on rhinoceros skin, and go, hey, that's a cool image. And that's what I want to focus on. Um, Love Goddess says, my husband said something interesting. He thought I was watching you for a class that we were all drawing the Wolf Warrior Angel using the super chat. You or anyone could do courses. Uh, yeah, you could, I mean, essentially, that's how you could look at what I'm doing. Is right now I'm teaching a course, and if people want to super chat, then they can influence the content of the course. But the course, it's not a course in the sense that I'm not advertising it as a course. This is really just, it's a live demonstration of me drawing where I'm giving people an opportunity to get ahead of all the other people in the chat, in a sense, so that people can actually have some input, because either way I won't be able to add everybody's input. Like there's, I don't know how many people watching today, 30 or 40. Peak is what it says. I don't know how many are watching now, but if everybody requested something, I wouldn't be able to fit it all into the same drawing. So super chat's doing two things. It's making it so at least somebody can kind of be filtered out from everybody, so that the requests are small and practical, and it's giving me money for my time here, but it's not essential to being able to learn the lessons. I would recommend, if you're gonna sell courses and that's what you want to do, you would probably want to sell tickets or admission ahead of time, and then make it private, not public. Or what would even be better is just to make a video course that's not a live thing, and then sell that as a product. Because if this were a course, I've spent damn near a half hour talking about fossils, and then I spent 15 minutes ranting about gender and body bias, or stereotypes and things like that, and answering questions. And so really the actual course content's probably only been about 5 or 10 minutes here. So, but that's just me. Okay, so I'll just do a little drawing. I'm gonna leave the chat alone for a little bit here so that I can draw, because I'm easily distracted, as you can tell. When I go back and I watch these live streams later, I'm like, come on, dude, just do some drawing. Let's do it. So I'm gonna do this in a comic book art style with solid black lines covering color, because I need to get this done in a short amount of time. Otherwise, if I had all the time in the world and I was going to do this in multiple sessions, I could do it as a painting, but I'm not going to do that. You have 20 or so days to submit your work, so you can feel free to take all 20 days if you want. I'm not going to submit this. This is just a demonstration, and I just want to finish it. So I created a new layer, and that's going to be for my ink. And what I want to do is I want to use a nice smooth ink brush like the smooth scratch board, but I want to keep track of what my line width is, because if I start drawing and then I accidentally resize my brush, and my brush is a different line width, then it's going to be inconsistent, and that's not what I want. So I think something around 2 is a good number. So what I can do is, up in the corner, I can just write 2.0, and that way I know. Ryan with the $2 super chat. Thanks, Ryan. Let me know if you have a question or a comment you'd like me to read, or if there's small request you want to add to this, such as a color or maybe a look or a property or something. Let me know. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. So that is $17 super chatted so far today. And like I mentioned earlier, I want to be able to do more live streams, but again, it's something where like it's hours out of the day, and I got a job like everyone else. And if live streaming becomes part of my job and something that I want to do more often, I have to be able to monetize it. And so super chats are a good way to do that. And I'm really glad to see that that's a feature now, because I was getting tempted to do more live streaming on Twitch. And, you know, I might do some here and there, but that's, you know, a lot of the incentive there is that eventually you can monetize your live streams. But I don't want to build a whole new audience on Twitch. And then Twitch is, you know, it can be a distraction from the things that I'm already using. And that's a gamble, really, because, you know, if you're like me and you've signed up for all these different websites, you go into it thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get the best result possible and I'm gonna make a bunch of money or get a bunch of followers. And some websites work and some websites don't. Some work better than others, you know. And so you do have to try it to be able to know, but if you invest too much time into it and it doesn't work, then that's time you could have spent improving something or adding to something that does work. And that's where being efficient and business savvy really helps you as an artist, because you can be the best character artist or painter or whatever in the world, but if you're not good at advertising yourself and you're not good at selling your work and you're not good at identifying good opportunities, it's going to be really hard to be successful in a, you know, I mean, everybody has different ideas of success, so I don't know, maybe successful is not the right word. It's going to be hard to get a lot of exposure and make money if you're not good at business. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be a business person. I've never taken any business classes, and I'd be incredibly bored if I ever had to sit through one. Maybe if it were, you know, done in the right way, where it was engaging and it was something that was more geared towards artists, I could get into that. But if I just had to go to some general business class that's like, you know, realtors and all kinds of different people who are not in my profession, those kind of general things would just, I don't know that they'd really be helpful to me. But I do think it's good to learn as much as you can learn about business. And I've learned mostly everything through practical experience, trial and error, you know, just doing it and trying it and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I have to say that playing RPGs has definitely helped me, because I know I've said this in a lot of other live streams, but basically what you're learning in RPGs is if you're good at an RPG and you can get through it and beat it, or, you know, get to a high level or whatever, it's because you understand economy and efficiency, and it's because you know how, I mean, that's essentially what an RPG character is, or a group of characters or whatever. That's like a job. Like if you can get something starting out from nothing to get to something that's much bigger and to get it to grow constantly, and you can identify what's the most effective way of making that grow, which is essentially what you're doing in an RPG when you're grinding, you could apply that to your business and your art as well. You know, you could see, okay, I'm doing a lot of live streaming and I'm not, you know, not making much money off of that, versus if I make a course, then that course makes, you know, a decent amount, like probably about half of my income each month comes from selling courses. Whereas live streaming is, you know, other than these 2 sessions where I've done SUPERCHAT, I've never really made anything off of live streaming. So it's hard to justify doing live streaming a lot because of that. But if I started to find that each time I do a live stream, I'm getting a little bit of money, and if it starts to add up to, you know, if the amount starts to add up to how much time I spend doing it, then it's definitely something that I would consider doing more. And it's not all about money, you know, but it's about, at this point, you could ask, is YouTube my job? I wouldn't say YouTube is my job. I would say YouTube is a piece of the pie. You know, the whole pie is what I make in a month, and a lot of that comes from YouTube, but it's not directly money generated from YouTube. It's not from AdSense revenue or from super chats. It's from opportunities that came about because I had a YouTube channel, or it's, you know, because my YouTube channel directs people to my products, or it directs people to affiliate links and all these different things. All of those things work together to make an income that I can live off of. And YouTube is a cornerstone of that, because in order to keep all those things going and to keep the machine working, I have to keep all the parts in tune. And YouTube is one of those parts. So I have to keep making videos. Some could see that as a benefit, and some could see that as a curse. Can't stop making videos. I'm going to redo the teeth there. Let's use the eraser for that. So Ryan's question was, just want to know if it's worth making premium tutorials for people. I'm building a site and I really want to know where to start with Patreon. So premium tutorials, you mean like exclusive tutorials where you're only going to sell them on Patreon? There's money in making tutorials. Are you talking? I mean, I need a little more info here, and I'll be happy to answer your question. You have to ask yourself: are they going to be exclusive just to Patreon? Are you going to make tutorials for each patron who requests them? Are you going to have like a voting system where people can vote on different ideas? Are you going to have a request forum or something where people can request ideas? Or are you just going to just make whatever courses you think are going to be popular? Those are all things to consider. Is there money in it? Yes. There's, like I said, about half of my income comes from selling courses and products off of Gumroad. And I mean, when I've had a fresh hot course like that's really relevant, because I haven't really been putting out very many big courses in a while, but when there's like a fresh hot one that people really like, then I'd be making way more than half of my income off of selling products. So there's good money in it. I don't know that any person off the street can just go in and do it though, because people have to know who you are. And so me having had a YouTube channel since about 2013 has given me a number of years to establish myself as a Corel painter master, and I've earned that status from Corel. And so Corel drives traffic to my website, YouTube drives traffic to my website. If you do any kind of search for Corel Painter, or you even use Corel Painter and launch it, you're probably gonna see my name pop up. Whether or not you give a crap, it doesn't matter. But most people are gonna know who I am, and there's gonna be a lot of opportunity for people to get funneled into that Gumroad page so that they're gonna buy a course. And even so, my conversion rate is pretty low. I mean, most conversion rates are pretty low, but if you compare how many people look at the page versus how many people buy the course, it's pretty low, even for me. And I think that's just kind of the industry standard. Not everyone's going to buy something that they look at. If it were much higher, which I would like it to be, that would be awesome. But it's a good amount of money each month, and it's pretty consistent. And it feels good knowing that those courses are going to make you money for a while. I mean, I have old courses that I'm still selling that are for Painter, 2015 or whatever, that still sell. So, Ryan's making 3D tutorials using Gumroad, maybe a code like I did. I'm not sure what you mean by maybe a code, because they have the coupon codes, and coupons are really just a marketing strategy. I hate doing stuff like that, but basically that's just all that is. You could use it to give people free products, or on Patreon, maybe what you're referring to is on Patreon there's a special code, and if patrons enter that code, then they get up to 50 to 75% off select courses. So by being a patron each month, you get a pretty good discount on my courses, and so that that's a perk there, and that's a good way to do it. I also have the courses that I put out. They're kind of like mini courses or lessons or tutorials. I'm not sure what to call them, but like the watercolor one I put out, and there's an abstract one that's already available on Patreon, but you'll be able to learn about it more in April on YouTube. I make those free on Patreon, so basically each month you have an opportunity to get a long format video or course. But then if you're not a patron and you still want to buy that, you can still buy it on Gumroad. It's just going to be more expensive than it would have been if you would have signed up on Patreon. And so that's incentive for people to sign up on Patreon, because that's really what I want, is like a consistent revenue stream. And then by becoming a patron, you're also not only getting access to those monthly lessons, but you're getting everything else that you get by being my VIP patron, which is a ton of stuff. I mean, I've had maybe one person tell me that it wasn't worth it, but everyone else seemed, more than 100 people seem to agree that all the stuff I'm offering each month for $10 is a pretty good deal. And it's probably, it's a lot of work for me to do all that stuff too each month, but I do it. But I always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm not only gonna put all my effort into Patreon, because if Patreon ceases to exist, then my income ceases to exist. And same thing with Gumroad. If Gumroad for whatever reason doesn't exist or becomes oversaturated or just doesn't work, then there goes my revenue stream. If all of my revenue comes from Gumroad, same goes for YouTube. Anything could happen to YouTube, really. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. I would say try it, but you also have to be able to get people in the door, so to speak. And if people don't know who you are, you're going to be one of those people with a Patreon page that has, only $1 or something. And it's just, it takes work. I was stuck on Patreon at like $300 or so for a year or two, and it didn't budge at all. It just stayed right about the same. And that's, I'm fortunate to have patrons who have been with me, almost since the beginning, like 2 or 3 years now. There's people who have pledged every month, and that's awesome. And that's why I've had that good foundation there. But it wasn't until recently that I actually found ways to get it to grow. And that's from trying new things and eliminating ideas that didn't work and getting feedback from people and studying what other people are doing. And it just takes a lot of thought and effort to get something like that to work. A lot of people think, if that guy's doing it, I can do it. And that's true to some degree, but you don't understand what's going into a lot of that stuff. You just see it being done and you assume that if they're doing it and they make it look easy, that it is easy. But it's really not. It takes a lot of effort. And the effort part is intimidating, because I know starting out, like I didn't even want to have like a Twitter. I didn't want to have to tweet stuff. In regards to YouTube, I didn't want to have to make end cards, and I didn't want to have to make thumbnails, and I was like, that's going to take me so long. Like, how long is it going to take me to make a video? Well, I got to make the video, and I got to edit the video, and then, I got to make a thumbnail, and I got to make cards, and I got to make an end card, and I got to write a description and give it keywords, and then I got to advertise it, and there's just so many things that go into it, and it just seemed like it would take me forever to do all that stuff. But now, since I've done it, thousands of times, it's pretty easy. And a lot of that stuff can be made quicker through templates. You have your thumbnail template, and if you get something like TubeBuddy, which is a browser plugin, TubeBuddy it'll show you how many hours you've saved, actually, which is no BS. Like, it saves you like, tens or hundreds of thousands of hours each month, because it suggests keywords, and you can automatically plug them in. It has card templates where you can make templates for your cards. Let's say if I have a video that's about speed paintings, then I can automatically insert cards that relate to speed paintings. That way I don't have to each time go through and add a card and then find the playlist and all that stuff. So TubeBuddy is awesome. I like my tube buddy. Thank you, Barb TUSA, for your $2 super chat. I'm sorry I didn't get to that earlier. I just wanted to make sure that I had completely answered Ryan's question there. Thank you very much, Barb, for sharing my videos. That's that's another thing that makes a huge difference. You have to have an audience, and this kind of ties in with Ryan's question about getting whether or not you can sell courses and stuff. Word of mouth is also good, and reputation is really key. Like that's part of having the YouTube channel and people knowing who you are, is building the reputation. As you want everybody to know that Ryan Lohman is the 3D tutorial guy. When you look up a Google search for 3D tutorials or 3D artwork, Ryan's name is going to come up somewhere. And I've worked hard to do that. You can do searches for all kinds of stuff, like Corel Painter 2017, or Corel Painter courses, or Corel Painter tutorials. All those hot keywords, which is what I want to drive traffic into my tutorials. A lot of those I'm ranked pretty high. And that's not because I paid Google or anything to get ranking. That's just because naturally and organically I produced content that was for Corel Painter, and that I produced courses, and that stuff is there, and that stuff is considered some of the better content that's out there for Corel Painter, and so that's why it gets downloaded, and that's why it gets featured a lot in the search results. So I don't know if we want a butt-naked wolf angel here. I probably have to put some clothes on this character, but I guess we'll come back to that. In the event that I completely destroy the wings here and make them look terrible, I'm going to do them on a separate layer. And you'll notice that I've been using the same line width for this whole thing. That's a stylistic choice that I made, but you could certainly make your wings look however you like. If you're drawing, or not your wings, you can make your lines look however you like when you're doing line work. They don't have to be a consistent width. Sometimes the quicker you do these things, the better. I wish I had my camera pointed at my screen. I had planned to do that, and then just for whatever reason my computer's just been giving me endless problems, so couldn't get the stupid Elgato to show up. But I've been having that problem with USB devices. Like I might just have too many USB devices, or maybe my motherboard is not a good motherboard for having a bunch of USB stuff plugged in, but it has a ton of USB ports, and that's why I bought it, so who knows. But anyways, I couldn't get it to work, but it would have been cool to be able to show how I was drawing those strokes. Barb says, I think you're one of the best when it comes to inspiring and monetizing digital artistry. Thank you again for sharing. You're welcome, Barb, and thank you for that. That's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to do, because there's a lot of barriers. Like Lawrence mentioned, galleries have bias towards digital art, and they prefer originals and all those things. And there are digital art originals, and when the world and the art community and the gallery community and art collectors understand and can comprehend that, then we'll be able to sell our layered PSDs, the actual original, and it's as fragile as anything else. I mean, imagine I take this finished painting, let's pretend it's a masterpiece, and I put the only copy of the layered artwork in the original on this flash drive, and I don't have a copy of it anywhere else. I don't even have like a nice copy of a JPEG or a PNG or a TIFF or anything. It's the only copy, and I sell that to someone for $10,000. Well, there you go, that's your original. Yeah, it's not paint on a canvas, but it's still something that could get lost, it could get damaged, it could get destroyed, it could, be stolen. It's just as fragile as traditional art. And when collectors understand that and appreciate that, then we'll be able to sell our originals. I mean, some people already do that now. That's not unheard of. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take people like you and people like me to help people understand the value of digital art. And a lot of that comes through showing lots of different creative ways to make money off of it. Going back to my percentage of income, I actually made like a pie chart, which I'll show in another video or something, but a pie chart showing all the different income I made off of YouTube, which if you watch video creators, you'll know that I copped that idea from him, but whatever. It's something that I'd been thinking of for a long time anyways, and had planned to create a pie chart. The slice that contains selling art prints was barely even worth putting on there, and I actually crammed it with a few other things that didn't really add up to much money. So I'm really not selling many prints, but I also don't want to put the time into it because I don't feel like it's really worthwhile. For me, at least. I'll do more feathers than that. And that's not necessarily my goal as an artist, is to sell prints. Like, it's nice to sell prints, and I have sold prints. It doesn't mean that I don't sell any. It just means that for the amount of time and effort it takes to set up a print gallery and to manage everything and get it all done, per print you're making like $1, less than $1. You're not getting very much because people aren't going to buy a 40 by 60 print. It's going to cost them hundreds of dollars. They have to pay a ton for shipping. Yeah, it would look awesome, but the average Joe they're not going to buy that. They're going to buy little prints. And you don't make much off of little prints. So then again, it's like it comes down to using your time effectively. I know from experience, if I make a course, most of the time that course is going to sell and I'll make a certain amount of money. Some courses don't sell as much as I think they're going to initially, but over time I will eventually earn enough to where I made a decent amount of money for the hours it took me to make that course. And then beyond that, I'm just making more and more money, Ryan says, thanks for your answer. I need to expand what I'm doing. Definitely got to expand. Frost has got to head on home. Thanks for the stream. I really love watching what you do. You're one of the reasons why I love doing art. Thank you, Frost. Have a safe trip home. George wants to know if I have any digital art tips for beginners. Yes, I do. In fact, I have a playlist that is called exactly that. And I don't know that off the top of my head I can really think of anything that I could say in a reasonable amount of time that isn't already pretty well said in that video. So I would say give that video a peek. It's actually called Digital Art for Beginners, and there is a whole playlist of videos as well. Give that a peek and watch that, because it says a lot more than I can say in a short period of time here. Now again, I could probably spend 2 hours drawing wings, but I ain't got 2 hours to draw wings, so this is what you're gonna get. And again, I would say spend more time on, if you're going to submit your character to this contest, spend more time than I'm going to spend on this. Because again, this is just, me doing what I can as a demonstration to get you inspired. All right. See if that will work for the wings. Good enough. I don't think this would win the contest, regardless of if I'm a Corel Painter Master or not. But you see what I said about confidence. Doesn't matter how confident people appear on the outside or how successful they appear or whatever. Everybody still lacks confidence to some degree. And you should, because that's what makes you try harder. People who are overly confident stink of overconfidence, and it just makes you look worse, I think, when you try to, pretend you're something you're not. And so I think that it does everybody good to be humble to some degree and to be self-deprecating, because then you're not going to come off as overly confident. So I'm going to really quickly here run to the bathroom and take a bathroom break, which will be really quick. So I'll be right back in just a minute. Oh, I'm a headless person. My little green screen going on back there. That way you get to see my floating head the whole time. All these upgrades to my channel and to my live streams are made possible by people like Mary and Anita. There might be some of my other patrons here watching today, but everybody who supports my channel on Patreon helps me to make my channel better and improve the quality of my videos. And so I'm able to have these live streams get better and better each time because I can invest money into gear. So that's good. And then, like I said earlier, the super chatting is definitely incentive for me to do more of these live streams more regularly. So thank you for that as well. Okay. Still not. This is me being lazy again, where I don't care to really try to find a reference image for this. So there's going to be some areas here that are not exactly the way I want them to be. That's okay. Just cleaning this up a bit. Okay. couple more details like that won't hurt either. Okay, we can hide the wings sketch. Love Goddess is seeing it like a gargoyle. Rude says, whatever happened to the Wolfman? Did he die and go to heaven?
Wolfman Jack's in heaven right now, cats. Yeah, Wolfman Jack never going away.
And again, probably only Mary understands what I'm doing there. For you kids at home, Wolfman Jack is a Canadian radio DJ. Let's say probably most popular in the 70s or so. There's a song by the Guess Who that's dedicated to him called Clap for the Wolfman. Now you know. Okay. Put in a line that I don't like. Let me fix that. I'll just merge my ink layers together. Be a single layer called ink. The Wolfman became a wolf woman because there are plenty of wolfmen out there. And I want my character to be unique. So I'm going to try to choose unique details. I mean, I guess I didn't choose it, Mary chose it, but I'm tweaking the direction of it. Mary and I are working together along with I Love Goddess to make the most epic character ever. Okay. So as far as outfit, I think some kind of bodysuit would be cool. Right there, I'm just trying to identify where the center of the chest is versus where I felt like it should be. And let's see. I'm just experimenting with some different shapes for the collar here. That's kind of cool, something like that. I don't want to get into too much detail here because then that'll just be more that I'll have to color and shade and all that. Mary says back in the day.
Back in the day.
Ryan says they have to make a Wolverine music video with that. Clap for the Wolfman. So I feel like this is a pretty unique character. Like I can't think of any flying wolf angel characters to begin with, but let alone female ones with an undercut and medium-sized boobs. So I think I'm already good for uniqueness, but what else can I do to this to make it look more unique? That's the question. Want some big eyebrows, Wolfman eyebrows. I don't like that. Yeah, this is really just me thinking of what to do here. Like if I need to add anything else to this. I'm gonna give it some time. You know, I said earlier you have to be quick and make decisions, but there are times when you need to slow down and think. So coming up on almost 2 hours now. I mean, I think I can go a little bit over 2 hours. So we'll see. I'm gonna have to if I'm gonna add some color to this. So I guess I'm going to have to just not be too picky about this and decide that it's going to be good enough. We can add a little bit of detail like, I don't like that. Let's see where our knee was in our musculature there. Maybe this is me like channeling Wolverine here, but let's see. And so that was right under the knee. My head keeps going off screen there. Just get to stare at my forehead while I'm drawing. All right. Wolverine-esque boots, but oh well. There's a reason why Wolverine looks like he does, because there's just some things that are just, I don't know, like, you know, obviously wolf-like characters are going to have fangs, and obviously they're going to have fur and pointy ears. You know, like there's just some things that you can't avoid copying from other characters because they're properties of a certain type of character, an archetype. Archetype is a general kind of character, like an elf is an archetype, you know, but there could be lots of different kinds of elves and ways to draw an elf. Hairy wolf feet. You know what? We could give it a try. We could definitely give that a try. I think in that case then I want to adjust the outfit a bit. Okay, I did that on a separate layer so that I didn't have to worry about messing up what I had already. I'll just erase that extra stuff there. Yeah, the hairy wolf feet help. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary, for the wolf feet that are hairy. Me being picky about the feet now. Okay. So then I'm going to drop out these knee things. Get rid of those Wolverine knees. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Now we can start adding some color. In just a second here. Okay. Darken up those eyelids a bit more. Somebody's saying it looks stiff because of the line. Let's see our... Yeah, I could have the leg come out more. Be more obvious that it's... See, now I'm getting all nitpicky about this. I mean, really, like I said, if you're gonna do a good character drawing, you need to be able to spend a decent amount of time on it. I'm not the best at drawing Spider-Man style poses, so If it looks stiff, it probably is. Really what I should have done is I should have used a reference that had musculature. I don't care to go back and do it. I don't care. I'm a lazy artist. Okay, well, hopefully that helped. Okay. Let's do some color. So if anybody wants to, if anybody who's, well, let's start here. If anybody would like to super chat in and choose a color, then I'll have some suggestions for my color scheme. Otherwise, I might just pick some colors. Curve on the bottom cheek, says Love Goddess. Are we talking about butt cheek or are we talking about face cheek? Must enhance butt cheeks. There we go. Ryan says reminds him of harpies from Castlevania. Yeah, I could see that. Those pesky harpies. Okay. I'm gonna give her an ear piercing too, to go with that haircut. Okay, so this is going to be the suit. No suggestions for colors yet, but if I get some, I'm more than happy to change this. I'll just create a few layers. The suit, the skin, the hair. Just think about all the different overlapping layers that are going to have different colors. And I want to stack them in the order that they overlap. Okay, so this first would be fur. I'm trying to think of a cool wolf color that's not already been done. So obviously there's brown and there's gray. Those have been done. I'm pretty sure there's I'm feeling like there's a green wolf character in like Marvel or something. Isn't there like an X-Men character or somebody who's like a green wolf? Where are my comic book nerds at today? Love Goddess suggests red, not blue. Do a red wolf, that would be kind of cool. Orangey red, maybe. I like that. So I will go with that. So what I want to do here is I just want to paint on a layer behind my ink. That way my ink is always covering my color. And then that way I can just go right along the edge here like this, and then I can fill in the center with the paint bucket. But I have to make sure that I get all along the edge so I don't have a gap. So see, that's a closed shape there all the way. And I can switch to my paint bucket and I can fill in the center. And that saves me time. I like the way this character turned out. A lot of the time I don't know what I'm going to do for a live stream. But I'm the kind of person, like, even with music, where I like, well, music and comedy, I like improvisation a lot. And I feel like this is my chance to do improv art, you know? Like, I could show up prepared, and I do sometimes, and I guess I did to a degree this time because I had my pose and my skeleton, but I like to show that I can just make things up on the spot, because a lot of being an artist is being able to make up things, I think. So I feel like it's inspirational to show people that that can be done. Let's fill in the feet here. Ryan says red with white highlights. That could be cool. Let's see if Mary and Barb have any suggestions for colors too. So regarding the prices on the super chat, my logic was that I figured a lot of people would super chat in requests. That's me being optimistic. And so I tried to make it in such a way to where I wouldn't have like multiple people requesting the same detail because, or not the same detail, multiple people requesting the same option. Like, let's say, you know, a bunch of different people wanted to choose the name. Obviously I can't make the name very long. Colors, I can have a bunch of different colors. That's not a problem. And so I made that a lower price. But maybe I made them all too high. I don't know. I was worried that I would get too many and then that would defeat the purpose of doing it that way. So that's just one of those things. I'll have to try it enough times to where I figure out what works. I guess I'll just do the face. Well, let's try doing, because I have to distinguish between what's fur and what's skin, and the skin could be fur, but I don't think we'll do it that way. Maybe the skin will just be like a variation of the color that I used for everything else. That might be kind of cool. Now watch, someone will copy my character and submit it into the contest, and that's what'll win. Yeah, right. I guess one thing to consider with contests, and this probably isn't good to say because I'm trying to promote the contest, but you also have to consider how much time it takes to enter a contest. And a drawing contest, not such a big deal, because if you enter this contest and you don't win, you still have a cool piece of art, and it's something that you were going to draw anyways. And it is disappointing that you didn't win, and it's disappointing that you spent time and you didn't get anything for it. But again, you still have that art and you have that experience. But I think contests in general, well, not even just contests, but things where you have to submit your work and then there are a bunch of other people submit their work and then only like a few get chosen. So for me, I guess my example would be more like whenever there's a public art project in Seattle, they'll send me and all the other artists who have registered a notification, and then we can submit our work and be considered for it. But you have to come up with a proposal of what you want to create. You have to also send them samples of your work, but they're very specific. Like it has to be in a specific format, a specific size. It has to be named and labeled in a certain way, and there's all these hoops you have to jump through. So each time I get a notification, I'm like, okay, it'd be fun to enter something, but then I start to look at all the work I have to put in to just be able to submit something, and chances are I'm probably not going to get chosen. So you don't want to spend all day entering contests and stuff, because that's going to be, your chances of winning are not high enough to where it's going to make sense. Like if you're not winning every single contest you enter, or a lot of them, you're killing a lot of time doing nothing. I mean, as long as you're making art, I guess that's fine. But this one, as I looked earlier, was only at 170 entries, and yeah, there's still 20 days left, and probably most people are going to wait till the end, but that's not a whole lot of competition if you think about it. I haven't really looked through all the examples, but you got to figure a percentage of that is all stuff that's really good, and then probably some of it's, I don't want to say anybody's work is bad. I guess I shouldn't start off that way. Some of it's probably destined to be chosen, and then some of it, might not be for whatever reason. It has probably nothing to do with talent or what the image looks like, because chances are they'll pick something that's not like the most detailed professional looking image. They might just pick something that's like a cool character that they like because the idea is cool. It might even be a cartoon. So something to keep in mind. Everybody has a fair chance at winning. And I know I probably should have put out this live stream earlier so that people had more time to know about it, but sometimes I don't think of ideas until later, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should do a live stream about that. So it wasn't until kind of recently that I'd even toyed with the idea. We almost did it on our last live stream. Yeah, I like the colors so far. Pretty sweet. I want to save this too, just to make sure that I'm saving it. Mary says blonde hair. Okay, we can do that. We can, oh, well, I already colored the hair. Let's see how it looks blonde. Let's just see. Now the beauty is, because I did this on separate layers, I can easily go in here now and I could make that change. I like that. I'm alright with the blonde hair. I'm going to keep the eyebrows red though. I wonder if it would be kind of cool for her to have like red roots, like her hair is normally red because the fur is red. But then the roots are not. So, like getting into making your character look unique, I'm fortunate in this case to have people suggesting things to me to help me, break free of whatever bias I have towards what character I want to create. And so that's the way to do it. But another thing you could do if you don't want to ask people for their input, because then I guess in that sense, it's kind of a collaboration, this isn't my idea. It's my I'm executing it, but Mary and Love Goddess and Ryan and um, I don't know if Barb suggested anything, but Barb's supporting me through Super Chat. So all of their efforts have helped guide the direction of this piece. And so I don't know that I can call it my own, but if you wanted some inspiration, you could take elements from characters, general elements, not, you know, don't take Captain America's shield and put it on your character, but like Captain America has a shield, so you could give your character a shield, or Wolverine has claws, so you could give your character claws, or you could give your character, you know, it could be holding donuts or something. You know, again, it doesn't have to be weapons and violence and stuff like that, but different objects that you can add to your character, different colors, different hairstyles, different, you know, just little accessories tend to be what takes something that's a very general thing. Like before I added some of these accessories, I basically had, you know, a female werewolf with wings, which isn't all that original. But once I gave her the ear piercing, picked the color scheme, gave her the haircut, and, you know, did all those things, then it kind of started to turn into something a little more unique. And that's what it takes. It takes those extra details. You know, pretty much in if you look in the description of this video and you look under that super chat request list of all the different prices, all of those bullet points are probably all bullet points that you should be taking into consideration when you're making your character. Those are all things that need to be evident in your character for it to be a character. You know, like I've covered all those. I have age. It's not a child. It's not an elderly wolf person. I've established a gender. I've established a creature. We haven't chosen a name yet, but we'll do that at the end. I haven't chosen a superpower, but you could assume that she has wolf powers and she can fly. Maybe that's all she needs. She has at least one object or accessory. She has the earring, and the haircut's, I don't know if that's an object. The suit is kind of an object. But it could also be a look or style. The haircut's a style. The color is a style. And then there's the color scheme. So if you go through all those things, you could add in a background for context and things like that too if you wanted to. But that's enough to establish a character, and then you can look at this character and you can understand a little bit about that character as if it has a story. Clueless Llama says donuts as weapons. There you go. Donuts as weapons. Just donuts really are weapons, because I guarantee you if a bear was coming at you in the woods and was going to kill you, if you threw down a donut, doesn't matter what animal, doesn't matter if it's a murderer or whatever, anybody, any animal, anything is going to stop and eat that donut, and that's time for you to just hightail it out of there. So really, everybody should have a little thing of donuts with them. The world would be a safer place. Like we need to get rid of all the guns in America and just replace them with donuts. And yeah, we'd all probably be, you know, a little bit more overweight, but we wouldn't be shooting each other as much. Jesse Pena wants to know, am I self-taught? I don't think anybody's really self-taught. Like there is a movement of art called naive art, or I don't know if it's a genre or whatever you'd call it. Naive art is when people do paintings anyways. Let's say they lived out on a farm and they never had an art class in school. These are people from way back in the day too. But let's say you lived on a farm in like the 1800s, and you had a schoolhouse that taught basic school stuff, but it didn't have an art class. But you still got some paints and you still made paintings, but you knew nothing about perspective. You never formally learned perspective or read any of those things. You just picked it up on your own from observation. That I would consider to be self-taught. But I took art classes in school, you know, even art class in kindergarten, that's learning something. You're learning about colors. And so I took art classes in grade school and in high school, and I took a little bit of art in college. But as far as it pertains to digital art, other than some tutorials I've watched here or there, and this is early before they really had a whole lot of tutorials out there, nearly all of my technique and the way that I paint and I draw is from experience, from doing it myself. So a little bit of both, I guess, would be the way to put it. I kind of like Ryan's suggestion of white with red highlights, so I guess that means I need to put in a background color, and I don't know what color I want, so I'll just fill it with a gray. Let's do the suit white. Yeah, self-taught is one of those terms that I think needs to be thought about a bit more because it gets thrown around a lot, and I think a lot of people say that they're self-taught, but really you're picking up something from somewhere, you know. But if you're asking, you know, did I go to like years and years of college and get a degree and that's why I can draw? No, I mean I started drawing when I was, you know, a really young child, and I didn't take any art classes. I just drew stuff, you know, and it wasn't anything realistic and it wasn't masterpieces by any means, but having all that experience and time to draw set a foundation. So then later on in life, when I wanted to read books or, you know, study different techniques and things, I did that. But I think a lot of what I've learned that's helped me the most about drawing realistically and shading and lighting and all that stuff and color, that's just from observation. That's just from looking at stuff and thinking really deeply about it. You know, like why does color work the way it does? Why does light work the way it does on objects? And when you start thinking about life that way and you start making observations that way, you tend to memorize it more because like once it's one thing to look at something and just see it, but if it clicks and you understand it, or I don't even know how to explain that. It doesn't mean that you need to know like everything about light, like you need to know about the properties of photons and all that stuff. It's helpful, but you don't necessarily need to know that. But just to be able to understand and go like, okay, here's my pen. Look, there's you know, light and dark stripes running along the contour or the direction of the cylinder. So next time I draw a sword or an arm or something, I'm going to shade it like that if I want it to look realistic, because this is how light plays upon a cylindrical object. And once stuff starts to click, then you've memorized it, and then you understand it, and then, you know, you can draw from imagination. Like, yeah, this isn't the absolute best character in the world, and it probably looks jacked up in some places. But the fact that I didn't use anything other than that skeleton, and that I drew all my musculature and the wings and all the details from imagination, means that, you know, even though I didn't get it 100% accurate, I can still do it and I can still draw that way. And for me, that's good enough. I don't need to be the world's best figure artist, you know, or the world's best character artist. That's not my goal as an artist. And if you look at, you know, you look at cartoonists like the guy who draws Garfield, you know, everybody knows who Garfield is, and it's one of the most popular pieces of art ever. You know, he's probably made tons and tons of money, and his work is, you know, well known all around the world. But it's not a super detailed, realistic drawing of a cat. It's a cartoon cat, and sometimes the idea is more, or more often than not, the idea is more important than the complexity of the image. You could spend all day drawing all kinds of detailed stuff, but that doesn't mean that anyone's going to look at it or really think twice about it. And sometimes people are more attached to simpler drawings rather than more detailed ones. So you have to find the balance, I think. It really comes down to what your goals are. You know, if you're happy doing detailed stuff, do detailed stuff. It's not all about what other people like, you know. That's only really important if you're concerned about getting exposure and selling your work. Then you have to really worry about that. What's up, Keenan? Got to do the wangs. What color are we going to do the wangs? So we already did white for the suit. So we'll have to see. So I'll probably start wrapping this up too. So I need to be decisive here about the wangs. I'm going to do the wangs as gray. So that means I need to change the background to something else temporarily here. Or it'll be silvery, maybe. I'm going to make my background darker too, because I'm working with lighter colors, and it just makes it easier for me to see whether or not I'm painting right along the line here. I'm trying to paint white against white, or light against light, or dark against dark, or two colors that are too similar to each other. It makes it really hard to see. And again, a lot of this stuff just comes from practical experience. Like if you do enough drawings, you'll remember when you make mistakes or when you do things that are inefficient. You'll remember when you go, oh, I should have done it that way. Hopefully you'll remember. Or it might take a few tries and then you'll remember. But you'll find what works for you. You know, not everybody likes doing everything the same way, and what's inefficient for someone might be easier for someone else. I don't always do everything the most efficient way. Like I have the Wacom Express key remote, and I end up using my keyboard because I'm old school like that, just because it's quicker for me to just reach down and use the keyboard. But it probably, in a sense, would probably be better if I used the Express key remote. I don't know if it would be better. It could be quicker if I liked using that, but on my desktop I prefer the keyboard. Now, if we're talking Cintiq Companion, then yeah, having all those Express keys is nice because I don't want to have a keyboard when I'm painting outside. So then I definitely use those Express keys. So I'll try to talk a bit less here and just try to get more of this done since I'm running out of time. And I want to be able to add at least some shading to this. But I don't think I won't be able to do as much to it as I want to be able to do. But again, this is just a demo of how to create a character, just something to get you psyched up so you participate in the contest and check it out. I don't think I'm going to do a camo color. I think that's too contextual. Like it implies military or stealth or something. And I think at this point, when you're running around with bright orange fur and big wings and a white suit, you're really not trying to blend in with anything. And also, I think like a flying character really isn't going to be hiding among trees very much, you know? Like if a flying character was going to have stealth, it probably would be white or something, you know, so it could blend in with clouds or be blue or something. But that's just my opinion on Archangel wolves. So we probably have enough time to add some basic shading to this. So we can start with the suit. Actually, I want to do a background color. She can be in the sky, I guess, since she's flying. But maybe we'll make it a... Oh, I'll have to play around and see. What do I like? I'll go with something like that. So then the suit should have a little bit of that color influence. Yes, it's a white suit, but should be picking up a little bit of the environment color. Now I don't know if the rules say anything about there needs to be an environment or if it can just be a character. I guess I'll leave that up to you to determine that, and you can see what other people have done. A background definitely helps to establish the context, but if you're not good at drawing backgrounds, you could just do just a simple solid color fill or something. That's what I'm going to do. Because I did everything on separate layers, as far as my color, it's making it now very easy to just go in here and shade this, and I don't have to worry about painting off of what I've already added. And do some shading on the wings as well. This is why wings are difficult, because it's just all individual feathers. And yeah, you can imply them, but wings are kind of like hair. If you're going to commit to drawing wings or hair, you have to be able to spend a lot of time on it for it to look realistic, because there's just a lot of individual hairs on people's heads. And yeah, there's brushes that can create a bunch of hair at once, but the hair is three-dimensional. It has its own contours as individual hairs, but then it also has contours as clumps. And there's the overall contour of the hair as far as the style and how it conforms to the head. If you don't take all those things into consideration and draw them in individually, then what you end up with is hair that looks flat. The same thing with the wings. And so normally I would not be this quick and sloppy about it when I'm shading, but this is now me rushing because I spent too much time talking about fossils and stuff earlier, and now I gotta rush to catch up. Me and my fossil stories. I see things I'm not happy about. Like this wing is way thicker than that wing. I don't know that there's much I can do about that at this point though, so shouldn't have even pointed it out, but I did. So I'll just ignore that. I'll pretend I don't see that. You pretend you don't see it too, and then we're good. That's the thing, like anything you see of mine that you're impressed by, as far as like finished stuff in my portfolio, I spent a lot of time on that stuff. I took the time to sit back and look at it and look for mistakes. Whereas a lot of the stuff you see me do in my live streams, I don't have the time to do that. You know, like I don't have to finish anything. I prefer to. So even if it's unfinished and I call it finished, that's just how live streaming goes. In traditional painting, that's called alla prima. It's when you do a painting all in one session, so that is a thing. A lot of plein air painters will use that. Just go out one day and just do a painting and get it all done, rather than start it and take it back to the studio and finish it. Because then you might, you know, even if you get a picture of whatever it is you were doing, you kind of lose that essence of what you were working on. So let's see, I'll still do a little bit of the hair here. And the skin is just a little bit lighter. That's maybe too light. I'm gonna make it noticeably different. So our lighting is going to be coming from top right here. Looks like it's starting to come together. Might put a little more detail into the background here. Just lighten it up behind the character there. So there's kind of a glow. I might even adjust some of the colors a bit. For example, I'm going to darken the suit so that I can go in here and I can create some highlights along the edges there. That'll really help those stand out. I might even add a little bit of a highlight to the fur. And the skin as well can have a little bit of a highlight. Usually highlights on people's noses, on their lips, lots of other places to put highlights. So I think that's all the detail that I want to add to that character. So I'll just zoom in so everybody can see it closely. There's the wolf, woman, angel, warrior, whatever it ends up being. So we need a name. Feel free to suggest a name. You don't have to super chat. I'll pick whichever name I like the best, and then we'll call this good. I'll just go ahead and save this too while I'm waiting for some name suggestions. I'm going to save this too and maybe bring it into Photoshop. I'll add a blur gallery, iris blur. on a path blur too. This just helps her look like she's moving. I don't know if you can really see that effect very well, but it kind of puts her in motion. Then maybe we'll add some color balance. I'm alright with it being cool. So let's see what we got for the names here. Rowie. No, that's not. No, I'm thinking of Jowie. Never mind. There's the character from Suikoden 2. Ava Morwin. Chiripaka. Angelica Delcrost. Angel Defender. Red Fang. Those are all good suggestions. Could be Ave Lobo. Wolf bird, I think would be. That's what it would be in Espanol. Kind of like Red Fang, to be honest. But that is a enemy from Final Fantasy III for Super Nintendo. I think I'm gonna go with Red Fang. So that's what we will call this, Red Fang. Maybe I'll even write it on there. And we'll make it in red. I need to find a font. Something fangy. Oh, come on. And of course, you could do a custom font too. That's probably what I would recommend if you're going to have the name of the character. But I don't have time to do that here, so I'm not going to. I might tweak this a bit. Let's see if I can get away with that. This will be a quick, sloppy version of a custom logo. You would probably want to do this in vector because it would be a lot easier and it would look a lot cleaner. This will just be my sloppy version. All right. Might play with the color of that a bit too. Make sure that it matches. And with that, we have a finished character. Ryan's following up with another $3 super chat. Thank you, Ryan. Don't have any questions. You're just being generous. I appreciate it. Ave Lobo, Clueless likes that. Brian says if she had a red and yellow suit, she'd look like Mother Russia from Kick-Ass 2. I haven't seen the second one. Parko says, bye, Aaron. I need to go offline now, but nice character. Thank you, Parko. I'll see you around next time. So, that brings us to the end of this character design live stream. Take a peek, if you haven't already, at the Epic Character Contest brought to you by Corel and Smith Micro Software, Celsius, Wacom, Drawcrowd, and ImagineFX, because there are lots of great prizes. If you didn't get to see this whole live stream, feel free to watch the recorded version. It should be up pretty soon as it's done processing, and you can extract all of those helpful tips that I provided along the way and submit some of your work, and maybe you'll win one of these awesome prizes. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so now, because that is the best way to know when I'm live streaming and when I've released a new video. I release new videos every Friday, if not more often than that. If you're interested in supporting my channel and getting special patrons-only perks like the long format videos that I was talking about earlier, and the coupons to save 50 to 75% off select courses, new brushes every month, layered artwork, PSDs, and all kinds of stuff, go on over to patreon.com/Aaron Rutten. There's a link over there in the bottom in the corner. And of course, my channel is youtube.com/Aaron Rutten, and my website's aaronrutten.com. As always, I appreciate when you subscribe and like my videos and all that stuff, so very much appreciated. And if you did enjoy this video, why not just click that like button, just for the heck of it. I'll check you later, Lawrence. He had to go do family stuff, but he says looking good, thank you. Bibbleknicker says this is awesomely rad, brilliant. Thank you, Bibbleknickers, and thanks to everybody who super chatted today, because really that's where I got all my ideas from. So thank you, Mary, Love Goddess, Ryan, and Barb. I will see all of you for the next live stream. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.